Well, it's 5 o'clock, so I think we will get started. For all that are here, welcome to Andreas's fourth segment in his psychological skills training. Um, you all have at this point know who Andreas is, so I'll let Andreas take it over. I did post Andreas in the chat the first form, so if everybody needs me to repost that, just let me know and I'll put that in the chat.
All right. Thanks, Lisa. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Just let me know if you can see it, anybody.
Yeah, it's there.
Thank you. So I hope, guys, you're doing great. This is the fourth time I'm presenting in this series. Always excited to share some information with you. And today we are going to cover two more key dimensions of mental toughness, namely success mindset and context knowledge. So I will start with this, right? And of course, we're going from left to right, right? And then on the bottom left side, you can see the objective. We have done, out of the 6, we've done one in December, one in January, one in February, and here we are now with our fourth one, talking about, again, success, mindset, and context knowledge. We have 2 more that are going to take place in April. The 5th one is going to be about the last 2 key dimensions of mental toughness, which are overcoming adversity and generalized self-efficacy. And the last one, we're just going to bring everything in and just recap, okay? So for today, we have 3 main parts. We're going to do the assessments in the beginning, as we always do, right? And then I'm going to talk with you, hopefully not talk to you, and at the end, we're going to have some more assessments. So I want to remind you again that when you take the assessments, and Lisa has already posted on the chat room, the very first link, you have to put a code there, which is pretty much, it consists of 6 symbols, right? The very first one is the first letter of your first name. So for me, would be A for Andreas. The last 4 digits of your cell phone for me will be 3477. And then the 6th one is the first letter of your last name, for me, S for Stamatis. So just keep doing this every time you participate, so we can figure out a little bit the differences that we see in your answers. As you are taking this, you're going to have to go through demographics. If you have done demographics before, do not do anything, just skip them, right? And go straight to the 4 questions. Those 4 questions are 2 about your knowledge of success mindset and context knowledge. That's 2 questions. You rate yourself, your knowledge of these from 1 to 7. And then you assess your levels of success mindset. How much do you think you have of that? Success mindset and context knowledge, again, from 1 to 7. When you're done, you're coming back, and I'm going to start presenting. If we don't have any questions, we're going to go ahead, go to the chat room, click on that link, go to Qualtrics, and start. It will take you approximately 5 minutes max, so we'll just be waiting for you, okay? Thank you. All right, guys. If you have an issue, just let us know through the chat room. You should be fine by now, but we'll wait a couple of seconds. If you have any issues, again, just type something and we'll figure it out. Okay. We're gonna go ahead and start slowly. In the very beginning anyway, we have a lot of intro information. So that will give the couple people who didn't get the link until now to actually finish it by the time we go into the new stuff, which is the success mindset and context knowledge. So again, at the very end, we'll do again the assessments once again, but then you will have to use another link, which Lisa again will share with you through the chat room. Okay, so we're done with the very first part. Thank you for participating and the people who are just doing it right now. I appreciate it. So I'm going to start with some general information just to put us into a little bit of perspective, right? This is why we're talking about all these things, because they are connected to mental toughness. And you see here what it is and how we operationally define it. It's something that it is personal, right? It has to do with goals, either subjective or objective. And it has to do about keep going, keep trying to achieve those goals, that high level of performance, no matter the obstacles, okay? You see that it is state-like, which means it can be developed. And that's why we're here, because we're trying to do that in a way. And it consists of many parts, actually 8 parts, and we are talking about 2 each time we meet, right? Today we're talking about context knowledge and success mindset, and all these key dimensions that make mental toughness have some common ground, and that common ground is that they're purposeful. So there's a purpose in our behavior. They're flexible, so if we face something we can adjust, and they are efficient in a way that they're helping us towards those goal-directed pursuits that you see over there. And if you want to put it in a figure, that's how it looks like, right? So we have those 8 key dimensions that all of them come down and become one thing because of their common ground. They become mental toughness. We've talked about these two in 2 months ago, and then we went to attention regulation and buoyancy last month, and now we're talking about success mindset and context knowledge, which leaves generalized self-efficacy and overcoming adversity for April. All right. So today, let's start with what we have to talk today. Success mindset, context knowledge. I didn't pick those two to be presented together by accident. They are picked together because they are connected in a way through the theory of hope. Okay, so hope is going to be used in to explain success mindset, and then we're going to use that and just jump into context knowledge, right? So it gives us a nice pass. Now, 2 things. First of all, when we talk about success mindset, we're going to talk about grit, right? I don't know if you heard about that word. Very popular term lately, especially in education and in sports. And then we're going to talk about hope. I'll talk about the next later. All right. All right. What is success mindset? Let's start with the definition: the desire to achieve success, and also the ability to act upon this motive. So as I said before, we're going to use grit and we're going to use the hope theory. And it's interesting that we're using those theories to support that idea, because as you see in the very last paragraph, grit is a non-cognitive trait. And non-cognitive means that it's more about those soft skills that usually make up our the characteristics of who we are, right? And then we have a cognitive sense. So here we have non-cognitive, and hope is about something cognitive. Cognitive is more about conscious, right? You need some effort. You need some intention in there. And also you can see we talk about objective accomplishments in grit. So somebody else will evaluate us. In hope, we talk about something subjective. So we think that whatever we're doing is related to hope. So they're very different theories, but they will come together. You'll see we'll mix them and we'll just create something very meaningful, hopefully. All right, grit. What is grit? Grit puts a lot of emphasis in the long-term part. As you can see here, perseverance and passion for long-term goals. It's a new term, and the people who are behind it, they were trying to understand. And I'm sure you've seen a lot. You've seen other athletes, and your coaches have seen athletes that they are talented, but they don't make it. So the people who who investigate grit, they started doing it in order to answer that question: why not all talented people become successful, right? And I'll give you an example to help you out. Is any coach willing to help me out by reading this? Anybody?
Oh, Andreas, I can. I just got to get back to it.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. And you just need your screen. All right. Consider Olivia and Sophia learning to play soccer. Both girls are equally talented in sports and initially expending the same intensity of effort towards soccer training. After a while, Sophia starts practicing in lacrosse too, while Olivia keeps devoting more and more hours exclusively to soccer. So in the beginning, both Olivia and Sophia are considered gifted. At the end, though, Olivia's duration and direction of effort towards soccer only led her deepen her soccer expertise. Sophia ended up getting surpassed by Olivia due to her intense practice of soccer, but also lacrosse. To sum up, grittier Olivia performed better in soccer than equally gifted Sophia.
Thanks, coach. So here, I give you that example to introduce you a little bit more like easier to grit. And I created this slide to help you out. If we talk about achievement, we can break it down into talent and effort. And if talent is something that we cannot really control, like you either have it or you don't have it, we end up with effort being the only variable that can really control, right? And effort can be broken down into intensity, direction, and duration. It's kind of easier to identify the intensity when somebody's working out, right? You can tell that's intense or not, high intensity or low intensity. What is not that easy is to see if somebody's putting all his or her effort into one thing and for how long, the long-term consistency in terms of effort. And that's the part that grit is really focusing on, to the direction and duration of effort. So grit is trying to say, okay, we usually talk about how important it is to work hard, right? Yeah, it's cool. Yes. All right. Yes. But that's not the only thing. Yes, work hard, but also be consistent. And if you want to achieve high performance, you have to be consistent towards one long-term goal, not many, because then you just disperse your effort. And that's why we use the example of Olivia and Sophia, and that's why Olivia ended up being better in soccer than Olivia. And I used that picture of Paris Marathon as a background because, again, grit is trying to approaches that process as a marathon, as you see here. So in marathons, what creates a competitive advantage is stamina. And that's what grit is all about, okay? So what grit is trying to do, as I said, is focusing not only on how hard you work, but also on what you're working and for how long you're doing it without interruptions. Just focusing on one thing in the long run and just putting a lot of effort in it. Now, did really grit answer the question why not all talented people become successful? Well, from the data that we have, we do know that people with higher levels of grit have higher levels of education, first of all. And if that's not impressive enough and it doesn't persuade you, I'll talk a little bit about IQ and compare it to grit. So IQ is the best measure we have for the talent of intelligence, right? We see that all the time, though. It doesn't mean that if you're talented, you're going to be successful. So it was very interesting to see that IQ is not positively correlated with grit. So it's not that if you're more intelligent, you will have more grit. It doesn't really work like that. And what's even more interesting is that when we're trying to explain success, grit explains more success, so it can predict better success compared to IQ, so compared to intelligence. So maybe that's something important for you, and maybe you understand now why grit is very important in order to explain that success mindset. Okay. All right. Now we're going to go to the second theory we're going to use to support success mindset, and that's hope. And I'm going to start with the story from the Greek mythology. As I'm, me being Greek, I guess I'm qualified to do that. So I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but Zeus at some point and his gang, they went against the Titans because they wanted to rule over the earth. So they beat the Titans, and Zeus and the rest of the gods became the Olympian gods, and they went to the Mount Olympus and started doing their thing. Okay. One of those Olympian gods is Prometheus. And for some reason, I'm not going to go into details, he helped the humans, okay, by giving them fire and whatnot. Long story short, Zeus is very upset with humans and is also very upset with Prometheus. So when Prometheus' brother, Epimetheus, I know, very similar, was about to marry Pandora, he thought it was a great opportunity to punish the humans, both the humans and Prometheus, right? So he created this beautiful box, supposedly this one. It doesn't exist, it's Greek mythology, but so he created this beautiful box and prepared it as a wedding gift and gave it to Pandora on one condition. She could not open it. However, he was counting on Pandora's curiosity, right? So eventually, as you know, she opened the lid. And then, all those bad things came out: sickness, despair, greed, old age, death, hatred, violence, cruelty, war, malice. At some point, she understands that, she realized that, and she manages to close the lid. Unfortunately, there's only one thing left in that box, and that thing was hope. So as we see in that quote, ever since, humans have been able to hold onto this one thing in order to survive all of life's miseries that Pandora released. So that story is about hope, and that story is about how important hope is, right? In order for us to pretty much attack anything dark in this world. Let's see what hope is and why it is that important. So hope can be operationally defined as it consists of two parts. We have the goal, which is the will or the agency, right? And then we have the way to achieve that goal, which is the ways or the pathways. So hope consists of two things, okay? The goals and the way to achieve those goals. Now, those two things are separate. Those two things are very different, but they depend on each other. They're equally important, and they're positively related, right? But in real life, a lot of times, I'm sure you've heard the saying, if there's a way, there's a will, but it doesn't really work like that. Let me give you an example. You want to lose fat, let's say 5%, right? But you don't know how to do it. So you have the goal, you have the will, you don't have the pathway. Another example, you may have the pathway, but you don't really know where you're going, is something that will probably happen next week during advising. So a lot of students work really hard and get really good grades, and their GPA is really high. But then when you ask them what are they going to do upon graduation, they don't know. So what hope theory says is that it doesn't mean that if you have one, automatically the other thing appears. It doesn't work like that. Also, that side note, there's an interaction. There's an interaction between the will and the ways, and the ways and the will. And that's what hope is all about, that continuous process, that continuous interaction. And I created this so we can understand it. I put some emphasis in that bi-directional relationship. So hope is about the agency, and hope is also about the pathways. All right. So here we're interested in the success mindset. We're interested in the will. Why? Because as you can see, high hope people have more goals. They pick more challenging goals. They evaluate those goals more positively. So in terms of agency, here agency equates to higher performance. And that's why we are interested in that part of hope, the will. Okay, so the goal. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and just talk a little bit about theory a little bit more, just to clarify things. We've talked about optimism, if you remember, right? So hope is different than optimism. How so? Optimism says pretty much that if you expect good things will happen, right? So it puts a lot of emphasis on the ways. Hope says yes, but no. The ways and will are both equally important. So that's a big difference. Also, a lot of people think that hope and self-efficacy is the same. We haven't talked about self-efficacy, which is for next time, but self-efficacy is pretty much believing in your abilities to achieve the goal. So self-efficacy says if the more you believe that you can achieve the goal, the more you're going to find a way to do it, right? So it puts more emphasis in the will. Again, hope says, okay, yes, but no, because the ways and the will are equally important. So that's one way to differentiate these three. Okay, and these are the take home for success mindset. Grit is perseverance and passion for long-term goals. Grit is best exemplified by the importance of working longer without switching objectives. Grit is operationally defined as direction and duration of effort towards aching one goal. Grit is shifting the focus of interest in success from working harder to also working longer and on the same objective. Grit is a better predictor of success than IQ. Success mindset is the desire to achieve success and the ability to act upon this motive. Hope is associated with higher performance. Hope equals agency and pathways. Agency is crucial in explaining success mindset. So this is the end of the very first part that we talked about success mindset. Do we have any questions? Mila is right. Yes. Do we have any questions? About success mindset, anything? We're not a lot of people today, so if you have anything, we can just go ahead and talk. It will be easier. Okay. If not, I'm gonna switch now to context knowledge, and we're gonna, of course, give the definition, but also we're gonna use hope theory, and I'm guessing you know which part we're going to use, the one that we haven't used already, to explain context knowledge. But also we're going to talk about wisdom, theory of wisdom, and SPI, superior performance intelligence. So this part is a little bit longer because we're using 3 theories, although the hope theory part is kind of short because we have already covered a lot of it.
Andreas,
Yes.
Andreas, before you get started on this component, can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the building blocks that are useful to create this type of mindset?
The success mindset?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by building blocks? Give me an example.
So for instance, you know, sometimes when you think about building grit, it can come from a positive experience or sometimes a negative experience.
Mm.
And you can build what you think are the tools that you will be successful in building what you feel grit could be to help you through perseverance or some, you know, challenge that you might experience. And I'm not, you know, going to say that there's a best way and a not so good way, because I think that it reflects each individual's personality and how they develop these kinds of mechanisms. But I think that there probably are some common frameworks that everyone can share and build it in a more holistic way rather than, you know, kind of reinforce a negative perspective or things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if there are maybe some common behaviors that are noticed in this type of mindset that helps provide a successful set of skills in this area.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a very good question. Thank you, Mel. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. But again, all those things that we are talking about are part of positive psychology. And all these things that we talk about is not about, you know, you are doing something bad and this is how you could recover. These are all about intensifying or creating or developing skills that can help you in sports and life in general, even when you don't have an issue. Because if you have more of that, when something happens, you're ready to react, so you don't go into those negative experiences. So all this is under positive psychology, and all this is in a positive, like taught or developed in a positive way. Positive psychology believes in the good side of humans, right? Now, concerning greed, again, the main idea for somebody, if they want to, we're not going to go in detail because this is not what we're doing right now, but it's first of all, that we're talking about some goal-directed behavior. So there has to be a goal, right? If you don't have a goal, then you can't really use this. So you are an athlete, let's say. What's your goal? To make the starting team. Great, awesome. Or to get recruited. Cool. So anyway, you break down, you find a great goal, you have to, you know, quantify it, put a timeline to it and everything. So you have that goal, you have that level of performance you're looking for, that achievement, okay? What you need to understand in terms of greed is that one thing that will affect your performance in terms of what we're talking about is talent. And that is given. That's how we're taking. The things that though that you control, and we'll talk about the controllables in a little bit, is very important. That's what you need to understand. And what you have to worry, you have to focus, you have to be interested more in those things that you can control. And we live in a lifestyle that like work hard, work hard, work hard. But greed says something a little bit different. Yes, do work hard, but also work in the long run. And especially, and also important, that put all your effort towards one goal if that's what you want to do. So greed is about one goal, Okay, that's how it has been defined, and that's how it is used. You identify your goal, you have whatever talent you have, and through all this effort, you use your talent towards your goal, right? If you do not use your talent, you're not going to be successful. That's why we see a lot of talented people who don't end up being successful. And you know it, and your coaches know it, and we as instructors in academia know it. We see talented people who are not ending up being successful because they're not putting up, they're not putting the effort. So what you need to understand, and then of course break it down in smaller goals, is how can I put the effort? All right, let me break it down into 3 components. It's the intensity. I always have to go intentional into my workouts and do what I need to do and have really high intensity, be there and take the most out of it. But also focus on less goals will be better than more goals because your effort not spread out. And also it's about the duration. Are you going to do it for a month? Sure. 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. How long? So that's how you can think about grit, and that's how you should just break it down and find ways to increase it. Focus on the effort and more specifically in the direction and duration. And I hope Mila kind of answered your question, although I don't want to go into the details right now. But that would be very good if they could do it as an introduction. All right. So thanks, Mila, again. And everybody, if you have any other questions, please hit me at any point. Now, for context knowledge, we said we're going to use 3 theories: the hope theory, the balance theory, wisdom, and the superior performance intelligence theory. What is it? It is an awareness and understanding of the context and how to apply your knowledge in that context to achieve your goals. So we talked about having goals, right? But now we're going to be like, okay, in order to be successful, you need to understand the context a lot, and that's important. And those 3 theories are going to help us prove that. Ready? All right, let's go. So from the hope theory, the only part that we haven't covered and we're interested now is the pathways. So the ways. So how are you going to do it, right? This is the part that has to do with the environment, the context. Why do we care? High hope people exhibit more pathways, sustain pathway behaviors, and pick more challenging pathways than low hope people. And that's what's even more interesting. Those people who pick those more challenging pathways, they don't really consider them more challenging. Okay? They just pick them because they're high hope people. That's what they do. So if there's any coach that would like to help me with those examples, that would be helpful. So I can drink a little bit of water. Any coach?
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Thank you. Yes, we can.
Example of the ways. A high hope athlete who wants to make the starting lineup will A, try to hit the gym even at night. B, practice more than their teammates on their technique. C, identify a variety of ways to attack nutrition. Example, have meal prep days in the weekends, establish SIP protocols for optimal hydration, psychology, read a book on how their favorite player deals with pregame anxiety, recovery. Examples are ice baths and self-myofascial release on days after games. And D, keep trying to plan alternative courses of action to achieve that goal, even when obstacles appear. Examples: a minor injury, a stressful week at home, or forgot their pregame meal.
Thanks, coach. So these are examples of what a high hope athlete would do in terms of ways. Okay. So if you're wondering if you're a high hope athlete, these are 4 questions that I can quickly assess that. Can you think of many ways to get out of a jam? Do you think there are a lot of ways around any problem? Can you think of many ways to get the things in life that are most important to you? And last one, do you think that even when others get discouraged, you know you can find a way to solve the problem? If you answer to all 4 of them yes, you think highly of your ability to generate ways to overcome obstacles and achieve your goals. And that's all we're going to talk about, the pathways and hope theory in terms of context knowledge. Okay, so it is about finding the way to reach your goal. And we gave specific examples here. And there are always a variety of ways to do it. The high hope athlete is trying to understand that and find those ways to achieve that goal. That's one. Now, let's talk about the theory of wisdom, and we're going to spend some time here. Wisdom is not a new term such as greed, right? It's an old term, and we have used many ways in the past to define it. So we have philosophical, like even from Aristotle. Also, we have philosophical in terms of religions, like the Christian religion and others. And in general, it has been described as something positive, right? We want to have wisdom. We also have implicit theories, we have explicit theories, but I'm not going to go into that right now. That's not the point. This is the definition of wisdom in the balanced theory of wisdom. So it looks a little bit too much. I'm going to read it with you, and then we're going to break it down, and I promise it will make sense. So it is the application of successful intelligence as mediated by values toward the achievement of a common goal through a balance. So balance is really important here, right? It's part of the name. Through a balance among intrapersonal, interpersonal, and extrapersonal interests in order to achieve another balance here now among adaptation to existing environments, shaping on of existing environments, and selection of new environments. So this is how it would look like. So we have 5 components. We have the intelligence right here on the left, and on the other side, we have the common good. That's the goal, right? So here we're talking about practical intelligence. Side note, have you heard about the tacit knowledge, right? For example, the practical part of knowledge. So if you can actually apply it. So a lot of times in school, we teach you something, and then you can actually have, I teach you how to be a coach, but then you actually have a coach. That's different, okay? So the theoretical knowledge is usually, it starts and ends somewhere. There's specific examples, there's specific solutions. In real life, when you try to apply it, sometimes there's no right or wrong. There are many solutions, and you have to find a way. So here, we're talking about that part of the knowledge. So you have to apply intelligence. You apply intelligence all the way in order to achieve a goal, which is the common good. Now, in order to do that, you go through a balance of interests, as you can see. So you have to balance, and that's what's important for us, interests that have to do with you, your own interests, interpersonal interests, which are other people's interests, and then extrapersonal, which is aspects of the context in which we exist, for example, a team, right? And then you take that and you're trying to balance it into the environments. So we have 3 kinds of things that happen here. You change the environment in order to be a better fit for you. You change in order to be closer to that environment, or you think this is not a good environment for you and you change environments. And I'm going to give examples in a little bit. At the same time, you have some values at the bottom, right? And we're going to talk about this in a little bit, which are mediating the whole process. So I'm going to come back to this, but I just want you to know, for context knowledge, we're really interested in the extra-personal, which is, again, the aspects of the context in which we exist. In our examples, it will be a team. And also this, which is about balancing of responses to environments. And this is where we're going to focus. So let me tell you a couple of things about wisdom and the thing that we just saw. So as you can see, wisdom is application of successful intelligence. So we need intelligence to be wise. It doesn't mean that if you're intelligent, you're wise, but you cannot be wise if you're not intelligent. Okay? So intelligence is a prereq of wisdom, but it doesn't always lead to wisdom. Okay? Also, in order to be wise, the goal is not your goal or my goal, it's a common goal, which is the common good, right? And it's always about balancing. And I gave you some examples. I'll give you some more in a second. And the last thing that we see there is the values. Values are things such as honesty and courage, right? And they're called values because they're not just today I'm honest, tomorrow I'm not. It's something that's really part of who you are, and you really believe in it. And in order for that to happen, you need time. And that's why a lot of times, we say that wise people are older people, because in order to have those values, you need time. Okay. So if we go back to this we just talked about, I'll give you an example of the extra personal, and then I'll give you an example of the balancing of the other environment. So the extra personal is, I have my own interests, and I have to balance them with my teammates' interests, and also with the culture of the team. Does that matter? Of course it matters. Think about a team you used to play, think about this team, also think about different sports, the culture in football team compared to figure skating team, I don't know, anything, or a golf team or a diving team. They're different. So you need to balance those interests together. Okay. And also, let's talk about environments, the bigger square over there, the red one. Let's say you just went to a new team, right? And the coach's philosophy is different than yours. So there are three things that can happen there for you to apply all that intelligence, all that knowledge that you have, right? You're either gonna change your ways to match your coaches, or you'll do your own thing and try to make the environment change based on your interests, or you will just go to that new team and you'll see that their culture is very different than yours and you don't agree at all, and you're gonna be like, you know what, I'm changing things, I'm leaving, this is not for me. So we have that knowledge, we have that intelligence, we have that tacit knowledge all the way to the left, but we need to know the context in order to apply it, in order to achieve that common good or success, however you want to call it. Okay. And these are the examples that I have here. What I just explained. One is about the extra personal part, and the other one is about balancing environments. The bottom line, as you can see at the bottom, bold, is that a wise judgment is definitely partially based on choosing among several environmental responses. So you have to take into consideration the environment, the context. So hopefully those examples made the point. And that's the last thing for today. The last theory is going to help us support the context knowledge, and it's called superior performance intelligence. And it has three main parts. We're interested in B, knowing how to work with your environment, and one part that has to do with the deliver. Okay, so which is called, delivering. So this is the whole thing. It has three main parts, which have subcomponents. We're interested in all this and the delivering part of the third one. Okay, so don't really get confused. Hopefully this slide that I made for you makes things a little bit clearer. So we have three components, but we're only interested with knowing how to work with your environment and the delivering part of knowing how to deliver high performance. So knowing your environment, what does it mean? It means you know which you can control from your environment. For example, knowledge of your arena, recruiting the right people, knowing your teammates, hiring the right stuff. Those are things that you know you can control. But also you should know the things that you cannot control. Example, you know you cannot control the NCAA regulations. Okay? As a bottom line, as you can see, knowing your environment involves having a deep understanding and clear perception of the performance environment, including distinguish between knowledge and information. In general, information is just the information, the data, and knowledge is understanding the information. Here we're talking about understanding the data. Okay, that's one. Shaping your environment. Examples, defining and communicating a vision. If you know your environment, you know what you have, you know what you need to do, you know what you can do, so you can create a vision and break it down into specific goals. Number two, if you have to surround yourself with the right people. That means that you need, in order to achieve those goals, you need people with the right expertise next to you, right? Fostering collaboration. That means that you need to support long-term relationships with those people. You also have to challenge the way things used to be, the way things used to be done if you want different results. And also seeing intelligence, seeing emotions, understanding emotions, and use emotions will help you with your environment. So on the right side, you see the summary of all this, which is about making certain you have the appropriate people around you who are equally committed towards common goals and are challenging constantly the established ways. The third thing and last thing about knowing how to work with your environment, being in tune with your environment. So in this fast-paced world, you have to be ready to react, right? And you have to be very, very quick. Building and maintaining relationships means that you have those soft skills to create and maintain those relationships. And of course, staying humble means that the product, whatever product, is part of teamwork. You're not more important. Everybody is equal. So staying in tune with your performance environment, reacting quickly to challenging circumstances, and maintaining supportive relationships, which is supported by humility. And the last thing is delivering. All right. You have to perform under pressure. So when the time comes, you have to remain calm and make the best decision. You have to trust your abilities. You have to compartmentalize so you can focus on the things that you can control. You also have to react quickly if an opportunity comes up. And the very last one is about at some point you need to understand and you need to make up your mind if the best course of action is not the best course of action anymore. So delivering involves knowing how to perform when under pressure, trusting your intuition, recognizing patterns, deciding quickly, committing to doing what's necessary, and focusing on the most important controllables. I know I said a lot of theories. This is the bottom line of SPI. It's about sustainability. So it's not only about being successful, but staying successful. So SPI is a brand new, not brand new, like 10 years term that we're using, and it's trying to answer that question. Why several talented, hardworking, and lucky high performance cannot sustain a success? And I put some names down there. Why not everybody cannot become Michael Jordan or Michael Johnson or Tom Brady? Why they are successful and they just disappear? So that's what superior performance intelligence explains. And for us, we use the part that had to do with knowing the context and knowing the environment and know where you're going to apply all that intelligence, all that information that you have. These are the take-home points. Context knowledge is defined as an awareness and understanding of the performance context and how to apply this knowledge in achieving success or reaching one's goals. Context knowledge and success mindset are related but separate. Context knowledge equals the will and the ways. The ways are highly related to context knowledge. Wise people are striving to be aware of the environment in which they need to apply their knowledge. And superior performance intelligence is about helping athletes getting to the top, but also stay there. So questions before we go to the third part, which is the assessments. Any questions at all? We still have time. We're good at time. I know I used a lot of theory, but believe me, there's so much more. And I tried to compile a lot of information to explain why we wanted to do more. I hope it's helpful. And if you have any questions, please let me know now or later. I'm going to share again how you can get in contact with me at the very end. If we don't have any questions, let's go ahead. And Lisa has already posted the second link. So you can just click on it and go to Qualtrics. I'll give you 2 to 3 minutes max because there are no demographics now. You just have to answer those 4 questions again. So please click on the link, rate your knowledge of success mindset and context from 1 to 7, and then move to assessing your levels of success mindset and context knowledge from 1 to 7. Time is okay. I'll give you 2 minutes. Thank you. All right, guys, questions about the link? Anything? All right, so we're done with the third part as well. So I want to thank everybody. This is how you can get in touch with me. If you have any questions, this is the time. If not, please let's connect, and I'll be more than happy to talk with you. Anything else, Lisa?
Andreas, thank you so much. You know, this is really a challenging time for our student athletes with COVID. There's so many uncontrollables that you talked about. So for them to be able to maybe pick up something about developing how to develop grit and hope and sustainability with their performances and whatnot, hopefully at the end, this will help us moving forward athletically. Student athletes that are on, I do have a Cardinal Strong Wellness website on our Moodle page. So all of Andreas's work and all of the other presenters' links, PowerPoints, and additional links are included in that. So if you're having trouble self-enrolling, just contact me and I can enroll you. And our next tentative 2 dates for our Andreas's last 2 sessions are April 6th and April 20th. So hopefully we can get, depending on our athletic schedule, if nothing conflicts, we're going to stay with those 2 dates at 5 p.m. as Andreas is still in Greece, having some great weather. And if there's not any questions for Andreas, I want to thank everyone for participating. Andreas, again, thank you for taking the time. We greatly appreciate everything that you're doing for our athletes.
Of course, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.